Tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. She had not been 2 weeks from shore when down on her a right whale bore. The captain called all hands and swore he'd take that whale in tow. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum.
How you doing, my dear?
You know, the creative director, Debbie Brady, said, "Energy, Whimsy, energy," and I never forgot it. You know, we got to get the energy up and moving.
Well, that's what my acting teacher, Dee Wallace, used to tell us. Every time we would do a scene in class, she would have us stand to the sides, jump up and down, and yell, and then do the scene. She said that was always critical to have high energy.
Yeah, so I'm trying to take what Debbie says to heart, and
And you do. And you do. You have fabulous energy, Whimsy. Look at yourself.
How have you been? How have you been?
Busy. Just so busy. Taking classes, working on my YouTube channel, posting videos, doing freelance art. Oh, are you going to take a picture, Whimsy?
I was thinking we might all say hi to my sister Bambi live.
Oh yeah, how is Bambi?
I think she's doing great. Hi, Bambi. Sometimes I get messages live, and I always want to let people know that even though we are live, doesn't mean I've forgotten them. It just means, so I thought it was funny.
Well, you could always.
She's a beautiful woman, and she's actually on her way to Cuba, of all places.
Oh,
yeah.
What inspired her trip to Cuba?
Believe it or not, Cuban cars. Her husband is a huge fan of Cuban cars.
Really? What's distinctive about Cuban cars?
You know what? She said it's not her thing, but she travels all over the world, and her husband, she usually goes places that he could take it or leave it. Like, though he did love Venice, she took him. You know, she got him to go to Venice with her, but
yeah. Oh, I love Venice.
Yeah, of course. Italy. I know you love Italy.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah. So this time she let him lead, and he said he would like to go to Cuba, and I think it's a great opportunity. But I'm sure she'll learn all kinds of things.
Well, I'm assuming it's open now, open travel to Cuba. I know for many years Americans could not travel there.
Yeah, thank goodness now things are changing.
I knew there were ways to get around it. Like one time I was in Spain, and I saw that there were flights from Spain to Cuba, and I understood a lot of Americans got around it that way. This was, of course, back in the 1990s.
Yeah, or you can go to Dominican Republic, other places.
Yeah.
I just wanted to give a warm welcome. Let's go ahead and turn the camera to you. Tell us who you are. Where are you coming from on this Taco Tuesday, where I'm at right now in beautiful downtown Portland, Oregon. It is 5 p.m. and I am having chai tea, which I absolutely love. Not much of a drinker. I don't drink alcohol, but that shouldn't stop all of you from enjoying your Taco Tuesday. And what about you, Chuck? What do you have?
Well, I was just looking here on my phone. It's 63 degrees here in Los Angeles. What can I say? Another day in paradise.
Wow, I bet it is. Well, special gratitude to Donald Lampert, Kate Travel-Tureau, Kitty Conwell, and Dylan.
Yeah.
Anybody else just here that you want to say hi to?
Yeah. We have Leah from Sydney, Australia. That's fabulous. What time is it there right now? It must be. I'm trying to think.
Good question. What time is it? You know, this seems.
We were in Australia once. I had a friend from Australia who stayed with me for a while. I mean, I love the Australian people. Here in Los Angeles, we have a number of Australians because a lot of people come here to become actors, try to break into movies, television, then a lot in the music industry. When I was working at Earth Bar, I used to talk to a lot of Australians. They're just always the warmest, happiest people.
Mm-hmm. And famous. There's a lot of good actors coming out of Australia.
Yes. I know, like Nicole Kidman, Hugh Jackman. Yeah.
I really think she's incredible.
Oh, I think so too. Oh yes, Leah was saying it's 11:15 a.m. I'm assuming that's right tomorrow. You're a day ahead of us.
Isn't that Great. So pretty much everybody can meet with us, except it's a little late in Europe. People that, sorry about the cough. I also want to give a shout out to Joel Tilson. Hello, Whimsy Chuck and everyone, he says. Good to see you. I've got the phone open so that I can make sure to catch everybody here. But wow, what a busy news day. I don't even know.
My goodness. I thought we're not a shortage of things to talk about today.
Well, well, as many.
Shortage.
Go ahead, Chuck. What were you going to say?
I said as if we're ever at a shortage for things to talk about, but what a news day. I've just been watching it unfold.
Yes, and so as many of you know, we can go ahead and start with the main news of Baltimore, Maryland. It looks like we have a pretty serious situation. You want to talk a little bit about to the audience about what's going on in Baltimore?
Well, of course, this has been the top news story today. A ship, I think, what was the situation? The ship ran out of power, veered out of control, and just crashed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge.
Yes.
It is the Francis Scott Key Bridge, and tore out, as we know, a large section. It was even captured on a security camera the moment the whole bridge collapsing. I don't know. Did you see that, Whimsy?
Yes, I did. I watched it on YouTube. I was able to see some film footage.
Breaking.
Of course, this one here is coming up from AP, NPR.
Yeah.
Do they know how many people actually wound up in the water?
Well, the last I heard, they think it's about 6 people, or it was 6 cars. They said that they have found through sonar imaging, they have found cars underwater. My good friend, our good friend Rosalia Scalia, the gifted writer we interviewed a few months ago, she lives in Baltimore. I had a little bit of communication with her today. She, understandably, the city is just heartbroken and devastated right now. And she said, she asked if we would please acknowledge the missing people. And I said, of course, definitely.
Yeah, so we'll definitely include them in the Empath's prayer.
Yeah, I was going to say, pray for them.
Yeah, and of course, more news updates as we go along regarding other issues in the news as well. Big top story items like what's going on with, are we calling him Didi now? Is that what we're calling him?
I don't keep up with the man, but I believe that's the correct terminology for him. Sean Diddy Combs, not P. Diddy, but Diddy. Maybe one of our audience members can correct me. I don't know. I met him once.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was when you and I were working at Earth Bar in West Hollywood. I mean, this is probably a very trivial story to tell, but someone asked.
It's Taco Tuesdays. People come here.
Well, I mean,
we're tired of Armageddon every day, folks.
I know, but I just mean in connection to.
No, not to you. I love you, but I'm just saying. Sometimes people want us to be serious on Taco Tuesday, and I can say with complete confidence that Chuck knows that he is hired to be anything but serious on Taco Tuesdays. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to snap. I apologize, Chuck. Please go ahead.
Did meet him. Someone in the store, a customer, asked if they could please do a selfie with him. And if you remember, we had a lot of celebrities in there, and I'd say 99.8% of them were always gracious, nice, cooperative, would pose for a picture and autograph. He refused. He said, no, I will not pose for a selfie with you. But he did go on to graciously and politely explain the reason why. He said, please understand, I just got out of the gym. I'm sweaty. I'm grungy. I have no control over these pictures. When they go out like this, when a fan takes a picture, I can't control what it's going to show up on social media. I don't look good right now, and I don't want to post for a picture, so I hope you'll understand. So he did do that. But that always stood out in my memory. He was the only celebrity I ever encountered who refused to do a selfie with someone in the store.
Yeah, but you know what? I think it's kind of cool that he did explain it. So
he did explain it. I've got to hand that to him, because initially it did seem rude, and I could see the customer was a little off-put by it and shocked. But then he politely said his reasons why, and I can respect that.
Mhm. Well, we'll definitely talk about it. And what do you know about the latest accusations of him in human trafficking? Do you know anything?
The latest accusations, I've been trying to follow this on the news. I was very frustrated yesterday
Right,
because, for my own live stream, I wanted to talk about it because I talk about Hollywood industry news, and there was
right.
just so little information other than what they were feeding us on the news about how there was a raid on his home in Miami and his home in the Holmby Hills part of Los Angeles. And I think they said that his two sons were detained and questioned, but they were released.
Yeah, they were
And there was at least a box of material that was taken from the home in Los Angeles. And usually those raids, the way they're conducted, they just tear up the home and go rip up stuff and do whatever they have to find what they need. And they were seen walking out with a box of material. And allegedly there are charges. Well, there have been charges of sex trafficking before, accusations,
gee.
and they're using the term human trafficking.
God.
It's quite horrific.
Oh my
It's quite horrific. I mean, obviously they've got something to go this far to raid his houses like this and question his two sons. And, Whimsy, we've also talked about this before. There are just too many people in the show business industry who have that kind of power and influence, and they seem to think they can make their own rules of
Mhm.
conduct. And I'm being careful in my language. It's still alleged, but it looks pretty bad for him.
I guess my question to you, because you're kind of there, you are all things celebrity, and anybody who wants to know anything about, I mean, the truth of the matter is you are much better than Tissa tells, because you'll tell the truth and you never want to make anybody look bad, even though
Yeah,
you
try to
dish the dirt. If you want dishing the dirt, Chuck'll dish the dirt for you. But what I appreciate is that you really don't do that when you start talking about these people. You've met them, I know for a fact, because I've been in the room with you, that you've got dirt on people.
Yes. But you know what, Whimsy, we all have quote unquote dirt on people, but we certainly know to keep it private under wraps. We know where it's appropriate, where it's inappropriate to talk. And when I'm on a public forum like this, I try to be very, very careful and to be fair as I can possibly
And I
be.
think that's why so many famous people have told you. I mean, people have come and told you about their herpes, for example.
Oh, yes.
You
Yes.
treated it for them. So we've treated these conditions, and so I think that we know who does and who doesn't, and it will go to our grave. So, but I think that what I appreciate about you as a physician's assistant, just in general, is that you really are trustworthy.
Well,
You
thank
really,
you. Thank
yeah,
you.
and when you do have stories to tell, they're never done maliciously.
Well, thank you. I just believe in the golden rule. You treat others as you want to be treated yourself. I know that sounds like a bad cliche, but it's just true. You put out respect, you get respect back. A lot of my friends back east, people I grew up with, go, "Oh, tell me, who were the mean celebrities? Who was a bitch? Who was awful?" And I said, I've almost never encountered that. Almost never, because if you treat another
You know
person,
what? I don't think you ever have. I've seen you with everybody, and I've never seen anybody go off on you.
oh no,
That was famous. I've seen people
not
go off,
famous anyway.
not
Yeah,
anybody who was important.
yeah.
Uh, okay, I wanted to make a couple of announcements, and thank you everyone for joining us. We're going to do the Empath prayer in just a bit. We're going to do some blitzes. Please be sure and like and subscribe to the stream if you haven't done so yet. Also, it would be great if you could become a member. All that money goes to continue to hopefully produce entertaining stuff for you folks. We also are very excited to announce that the monthly book club is tonight at 6 o'clock. At the end of this show, we are going to be interviewing the incredible Leslie Cain. I think we are both pretty gosh darn impressed with her. I found this book, I read it slowly in stages, and I found I got really angry. I had to go. I went for a walk several times as I read this book, and I found that the poetry was pretty powerful. For those of you who haven't checked it out, it's about being a survivor of violence, abuse in childhood, and how we can come out of that and thrive. Her poems are really, really remarkable. And I look forward to hearing her read her own stuff. She had a poem in here that really struck me about being a survivor.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Page that was on.
Uh,
She can read.
I Am a Survivor. It's the last one that she has a series. I think this is one of 3 books, which we'll also talk about today, but we're just covering the first. Anyway, if you haven't gotten the book, you still have, there's plenty of time. You can get it on Amazon. So we'll be talking with her as well. Also, be sure, if you do want to support our channel, to check out all the amazing merch that is developed by the incredible Debbie Brady, a designer extraordinaire. The T-shirt that Chuck's wearing, and cups, etc. Again, it just helps us pay our actors and have this amazing stuff happening. Are you? Did I do it all? Are we ready to do the Empath prayer?
I think you've done it all.
Thank you, Chuck. Okay. If you know the Empath prayer, please join along with us. We're also sending good healing and prayers to those people who wish to receive a healing at this time. If you need a prayer for somebody who's sick or ailing, or you want to have your name included, all you have to do is just type it in, and then we will include that individual in our prayers. All right. All right, let's do it. Let's do the Empath prayer. Okay. I want to call on white light protection for myself and this community as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and our good angels to be with us. Please give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, the planet, the people we love, but also to help those that we may have strife with. And together, collectively, we say, Amen. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So I'm just going to be looking for questions from the audience as we go, and we can go ahead and let ourselves blitz away. So first question is coming from Joel Tilson, and he wants to know, what the heck is going on with Didi? Believe it or not, that is the first question. So let's continue the conversation since it is the first question. What do you think? What's going on with Didi?
What's going on with Didi? I'm still trying to find out more on the news. What's going on with him? He's cloaked in a lot of mystery. He's an enigma. I honestly was not following him that much, so I'm ashamed to admit I was not aware of the human trafficking charges until this came out yesterday. I just had not been following him, and I'm the one who supposedly follows all the Hollywood industry news here.
Right.
You know of him, Whimsy.
Well, evidently he was having some lawsuits. Somebody claimed sexual harassment, but also he wasn't paying. He was sued because he owed people money. So what happens if somebody feels that they're messed up? They could potentially try and get you in trouble. So if you saw something illegal, so if he was pissing a lot of people off, then those people are going to go turn state's evidence, et cetera. And that appears to be what happened. I mean, the fact that they brought Homeland Security in, that's interesting, because that means that foreign nationals could be involved. Isn't that right?
Yeah. That had occurred to me that, because he is in a position of power in the music industry, and I'm sure he has pissed off a lot of the wrong people. And sometimes this is revenge, that I think that's happened to a number of public figures, but that's not to say that he's not guilty as hell of what he's done. It's just being brought to light.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, interrupt you, but I mean, he obviously makes a lot of money for people. And unfortunately, when that's the case, a lot gets covered up. I think about Bill Cosby back in the 1980s. He was, at the time, he was NBC's most valuable property. He had the #1 show on television, a lot of advertising revenue. So a lot of those charges were known about back in the 80s, but it was covered up to protect him. So maybe there have been similar things going on with Didi.
Well, let's go ahead and first question is he going to be charged? is he going to be charged?
Is he going to be charged? Let me.
Yes, he's going to be charged.
Let me give. Going to be charged.
I think he's going to be charged, and I think the
Yes.
reason he's going to.
I'm doing a yes on the pendulum here. I had to grab my pendulum.
Sorry.
Yeah, but yes, that's a strong yes. Yes.
I think they were foreigners, which is why Homeland came in. In plainer words, that whoever got involved in bringing people in who may have been immigrants. This is when Homeland got involved. The other thing is that they were underage, and those were the two reasons they were charged. The children were involved.
God, that's just horrible.
So if they were working with mules or traffickers that were bringing foreigners in who were underage and then got in the middle of that, then the investigation would have yielded trafficking children who didn't have papers. And then that was what resulted in Homeland getting the raid. That appears to be what the remote is saying.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Can you believe that this world exists?
Well, I can believe it exists. That's not to say I'm not disgusted by it. Deeply disappointed, but yes, it exists.
So, I mean, I guess my next question to you is, make it a little bigger there. Do you think when these kinds of things happen, it sends a message to people in positions of power that the old days of getting away with this kind of stuff is over?
I think it definitely sends a message. It certainly puts fear in people, like fear that they're going to get caught. They may not be remorseful for what they've done, but they certainly fear getting caught. And it definitely sends a message.
Okay, so the next question, we're getting some interesting information about why Homeland. So it appears that the victims are underage, and it appears that some of them were foreign nationals, foreign citizens. So the next question about it is, are we looking at potentially multiple people being charged? How big is this operation?
Charged. Are we looking at multiple people being charged? I'm getting. It's not clear. It's more of like a maybe. I've asked the question several times. Are people going to be charged in this? It's leaning closer to a yes than a no, but it's still in the maybe area. What are you getting with your cards?
I think that it was a sting operation. I think that they approached somebody. So they may have been approaching people who didn't have papers, and that was the sting. And I think that other people could be charged, including family members. Like if they tried to lure a family member, one's child, one's niece, one's nephew, because of desperation for money.
Whimsy, I got to tell you something. I reached for my deck of cards here, and this fell out. When you said family, look what card dropped out of my deck.
Family?
Yes, literally fell out of the card the moment you said that. Now that's spooky. That's spooky to me. Family.
Yeah. So one of the things that's come out about Didi is they're talking not just about child sexual abuse, but that child male sexual abuse, in the sense that why do males turn out like this? And they're now beginning to look at child sexual abuse in males in Hollywood. And one of the ways that they get abused is that they are raised in these kind of sexually inappropriate environments.
Yeah.
And it warps their sense of themselves and their sense of their sexuality. But they sent this like 13-year-old actor, oh, I'm going to get you didified. You're going to learn about what sex is as a 13-year-old boy by hanging out with a pimp, a human trafficker, a slave hoarder. So a man that enslaves other people, he's a slave master. So the slave master who's raping his slaves is going to teach you what sexuality is about as a young male. And according to the people that got didified, that this is how it's done. This is what power is. No, this is not what power is. This is what psychopathy is.
Yeah.
Some of these 13-year-old and 14-year-old boys adults were having sex with them. Now that's child sexual assault.
Yes.
And so I think one of the reasons why we're seeing so many males developing so many mental health problems in terms of how they view this flippant view they have about sexuality and child sexual abuse is because there's almost this feeling like that's coming of age as a man. But if a 13-year-old girl were in that situation with a 30-year-old prostitute or whatever,
Yeah.
it would sex worker, it would take on very different sexual connotations. This idea that somehow that is healthy or appropriate behavior for a young male.
Yeah.
So all of that, and consequently, if you're a young male who says, I don't want to be in this situation, or I'm feeling like I'm uncomfortable, you're being pressured to go along with it. So it's a type of sexual abuse in males that is rarely talked about because you're almost demonized or told you're something's wrong with you if you don't want to participate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is really heavy stuff that
Yeah.
Hollywood is having to deal with because there's just so much male sexual abuse that's been coming out. But that story, young boys learning how to be pimps and learning that this world is somehow okay, is classic grooming of a minor.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's grooming.
So it's just dark stuff.
Becomes the kind of perverse grooming. I agree. It is.
Yeah.
It makes me sad. Sad. I had this kind of abuse.
Yeah, it's so interesting also that we're having Leslie Cain on today, who has written a book about healing from this type of abuse. We try to keep Taco Tuesdays positive, but unfortunately, it's not always easy to do when you've got other stuff going on in the world. But
yes, it was mentioned about. I was thinking the same thing about Corey Feldman. He's been talking about his sexual abuse for a long time. There have been a number of actors who are now in their 30s and 40s who have talked about this, what went on when they were around that age, 12, 13 or so.
Absolutely horrible.
Groups, I can't think of the specific ones, but there wasn't one, Menudo or so. I forget which one, where there was allegedly some sexual abuse going on with the manager.
The kid that was in Terminator, or one of those, that he ended up living with his tutor.
Yeah. I know the kid you're talking about. I had forgotten about that story.
Yeah. According to Joel Tilson, 6 people are still missing in the water on the accident out of
6 people in cars being seen with underwater cameras or sonar. I stand with the bridge. They were able, I could be wrong on this, but I think they closed the bridge just as they saw the ship coming in, but there may have been some stray cars still on there. Probably the only saving grace was the fact that it happened 1:30 in the morning. That could have happened during daytime rush hour traffic. Would have been even more cataclysmic.
So aren't people I mean, like, in a sense, you could argue that this was better than it could have been. Don't you agree? Like,
I mean, it's kind of hard to phrase it that way, but yeah, a better scenario than if it had been during morning rush hour traffic or afternoon rush hour traffic or anytime during the day. It was like when we had the Northridge earthquake here in 1994, it was pointed out the fact that it happened at 4:31 in the morning was a big savings grace in sparing lives, because it had happened like 2-3 hours later when things collapsed and so forth, and people were on the road on the way to work. It would have been far more devastating.
Yeah. So who do you think is to blame? I mean, I think that's the main question. Obviously there's going to be an investigation. Do you think our infrastructure is just trash in this country? I mean,
well, we certainly know a lot of our infrastructure is falling apart. There's been an issue for decades, but I don't know if that was specifically the case with this bridge. I mean, I don't know how any bridge could withstand a big ship just barging into it like that.
So
like the best constructed bridge would have collapsed.
So the problem is really the loss of control of the boat. Is that it?
Yes. That seems to be the story right now. That's what's believed. They talked about it on the news today. They said, as far as they can tell, it was an accident. There does not seem to be any substantial evidence supporting that it could have been an act of terrorism, but it was just more negligence.
Let's see if we can find out some basic information about the accident for you folks. Do you want to just throw a couple cards and see if we can get more information about it? I'm just grateful that there's more people, to be honest with you.
I'm too. I'm grateful. It could have been so much worse. Oh, should I shuffle these? For whatever it's worth, I had a card jump out, shame.
Yeah.
That has to do with whoever's in charge of the boat, the accident. I think there's definite shame. This card came up, community.
Yeah.
And I think that ties in with what our friend Rosalia was telling us, how the city of Baltimore, the whole community is devastated right now. And look how they're going to be affected by this. That was a major, major thoroughfare.
Right. Was the boat owned by Singapore? Is that who owned it? Am I mistaken about that?
Sure. I'm not sure. I know it was a foreign ship.
But yeah, I think shame and whoever this country is, they're going to have to take responsibility for the fact that they did not adequately take care of whatever the damage was. Looks like from what the remote is telling me, it was damaged during the voyage. So they may have had problems with whatever was going on in the boat. And then midway through, they began to have serious problems and it was not adequately dealt with or fixed prior to entering the harbor.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Teresa just said the ship lost power and its anchor couldn't get
Okay. Yeah, that would explain.
in the sill. And yeah. So I'm trying to read what you wrote here. But so that must be what you're getting from your reading. These power issues, there
were problems before it came in, and they were not adequately taken care of prior. Yeah. So a mountain or hit something, and then the cross that they must bear. So again, it's that feeling of what they did. But when I go into the remote, we were having problems prior to us entering.
Yes. And Susan brought up this boat had 15 inspections and had a history of issues with propulsion. Yeah.
And specifically the propulsion on the left side, if they go in as a remote viewer. If you look at it, it's not there. If you look at it as a remote viewer, if any of my students are here, and imagine you are the boat. Now you are the boat, become one with the boat. Now position yourself as if you're facing the bridge. Where do you feel your weight sink in? You'll feel your weight sink in on your southwest side as you're going towards. And that's because there's some kind of a damage there. Yeah. So that's the fact that is how I felt as the boat going in, that I was dragging on my southwest side and something was wrong there, tells me I was injured before I even went in.
My God.
And you can see it. I mean, I can see it. I can see the difference between the two sides, and I can see the energy is different on the southwest side. I personally, but I'm a remote viewer. I don't know if other people can see it. I never know what other people can see, but I can physically feel weight differences as I physically feel myself dragging on that side. The purpose of being a trained empath is that you literally take on the skin of whatever you're hired to become. It's a pretty cool skill. So, but they were dragging and they had problems before. I don't understand why they didn't deal with it before they went into the port. That must have been negligence.
Yes. Well, Susan here just made another point. It takes more than a mile to slow down or change direction in a boat that size, according to an expert who was interviewed on NPR today.
But I felt like
nonetheless, should have been able to have.
Yeah, I felt we were having problems long before that. We must have just been, it was neglect. Let's go ahead and check. Let's see if it was neglect, because I feel like the problem was pre-existing.
Well, that's what I was getting when I pulled that shame card.
Right.
In charge of this. Yeah. Deeply, deeply ashamed.
Yeah.
What are we asking, Whimsy?
Was it due to neglect? Was there neglect involved?
Neglect involved with the ship? Oh, that's a big yes. That my pendulum just went yes, 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 yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
It's also embarrassing stuff. They were trying to save money on inspections.
Uh-huh.
Here's the crash of the boat. You can see these cards are awesome, by the way. The Lenormand, look at that tower in the boat. Can you believe the accuracy of these cards?
Yeah.
They're dispatching somebody from the country who's going to be doing an inspection. They're bringing in their own people for the inspection. The writer is coming from their country.
Well, I wonder if our government is going to insist on our own inspection as well.
Yeah, that seems to be what's happening. But wouldn't that be appropriate if they're the owners of the boats? Then they have to go with their own inspectors, and we have to meet and determine. But it's basically saying that there was an injury on the southwest portion of the boat, and it had been dragging, and they thought that they could do a patch job and get it to work. But unfortunately, it was too little too late, and that was ultimately the price because they hadn't adequately taking care of the problem. They'd done a patchwork on the repair problems on the southwest part of the boat. That's basically, as a remote viewer, if I was asked, well, I am being asked to do an assessment, that's my assessment, and I would tell them to go down into the bottom of the boat and start checking the southwest side because they've got real damage there. Yeah. It is what it is.
It's even pointed out, I said maybe it was loaded improperly. That certainly is logical. Wouldn't that have to do with the weight distribution?
No, it's something that has to do with my engine and my brakes and whatever's going on in the bottom on the southwest. There was some kind of problem or a weakness or something that it was not functioning optimally, and it was not being adequately addressed. And now, based on what the remote is telling us, based on the feed, experts that are associated with the company are going to be coming into the United States, and together they're going to be assessing what happened. But I can tell you that's the area of the boat that's malfunctioning. Okay. It's a very unpleasant thing to have to deliver that information. But like you had said earlier, I mean, this could have been a lot worse than it actually was. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was also, this was pointed out that the lights went out before it hit. So the lights, as I recall, were flickering on and off. So that would indicate that power was going on and off too, wouldn't it?
Well, I'm just wondering, were they having shorts? Is that what we're seeing? Is there some kind of damage or leak that they were patching up, problems that they were having on that southwest side? And then eventually, if you don't, is that what caused the short? Is that what we're seeing? So it'll be, it's interesting as a remote viewer how your brain tries to put things together. Your brain tries to figure out, the first thing I feel as a remote viewer is density. I feel physical density. That's the sensation you get when you're like, I feel crushed. Even though no one's touching you, but you're being asked to move in the back of a bus, you get that sensation. Those are the kinds of physical sensations that you'll have as a remote viewer if you're being cramped or you're being pulled into a particular area. So, and then you'll also feel a physical density or a weight come over you. So that's the first thing I always feel as a remote viewer.
Speaking of physical density,
sorry. Come on. What's this? The guy has to come up with close to 500 million, but then they say that he really doesn't because they feel bad.
Yeah. Well, it was pointed out by, I think it was on The View this morning, Sunny Halston. She's a lawyer. And I think she's the one who said this. I was just listening in the background, but she said the whole point of this was not to punish him, but just to make it enough to keep him, to ensure that, while the appeal is taking place, that he doesn't go anywhere, so, it was never meant to be an amount of money he couldn't come up with. So it was something obviously more within his means. And also it's known that should he lose his appeal, he's going to, lose this money, and he's going to have to cough up the rest of the 500 million.
So has he been able to come up with the amount of money that he needed to come up with?
I don't know. I'm assuming there must have been some bargaining with his lawyers, and this was a figure that was determined that he could come up with. And now he did say he did not want to sell his properties. I've heard different versions of that. I heard there were like 30 insurance companies that refused to post a bond for him. He didn't want to liquidate his properties. I'm not sure. Maybe people out there know more about this.
I mean, it's basically what you're saying. I can't see. I mean, it just seems to me like there's a set rule for us and there's a different set of law for him.
Well, he's always been that way.
And that in and of itself is just bothersome to me.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, let's see. Melissa Miller said they don't pull the fine out of a hat. It's based on the losses to the state and established fine schedules. And she said, and more than I know about it, so they weren't basing it on how much he has. That's
Okay.
what said.
So was he able to come up with $250 million? He said that he had come up with 400 and something million. Isn't that correct?
Well, that's what they were initially. I think it was 470 million. That was the amount, and he couldn't come up with that. And then it was reduced down to 175 million?
Let's see if he comes up with 175 million. Let's see if this is going to happen. When does he have to come up with the money?
I think it's within 10 days. I heard that figure. Oh, yes. And did you hear that he's selling Bibles now? $59 a pop. I thought,
all this stuff will probably be, if there is in America when this nightmare is over.
Yeah. I just thought, oh my God, the man selling Bibles.
Well, Alan Lichtman said that he's got a chance in hell of being the president. Alan Lichtman, the man who's predicted every.
You know when I heard he was selling Bibles, remember the movie Paper Moon? The father and daughter con artists who are going door to door selling Bibles. That's immediately what I thought of.
Well, I threw some cards for Donald Trump and his future. Yes, regarding his problems with the feds, and it's not going well. It says that he's a child. He's playing checkers and they're playing chess. He presents as a child. His opposition is the anchor, which means that they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
His hope and his fear, the fox, the sly, foxy ones, So we got smarter people than he does. His final outcome, more problems lay ahead. Clouds in his copy. What do you got for us? Anything less depressing?
Oh my God, I was so enraptured with you. I didn't even pull a card. I figured this is kind of a no-brainer, but let me see. Well, I pulled discontent. He is not too happy right now. I'm going to pull.
I don't think he would be. No.
Oh, I always go by what jumps out of the deck here. Let me shuffle. Discontent. This jumped out again. Shame and discontent.
Oh boy.
I want to say no shit. It's like, tell us. Right. That's what jumped out of the deck when I shuffled. I was here.
Do you think that personality disorders are depressing here are your choices, and you can say all of the above if you like. A, they're depressing because they never learn. The nature of a sociopath and narcissist is that they can't change, right? They don't learn. Is it A, the fact that they can't learn, or B, the number of victims that there are by the time they're done, or C, all of the above? I think it's all of the above.
I think it's C, all of the above. I have dealt, I think all of us have personally dealt with sociopaths and narcissists, and we know this to be true. We know the behavior. My dear late mother, it was like trying to talk to a wall. a brick wall. They're just impenetrable. They are so fixed that they are right and we are wrong.
Yeah, and that's why I think a meditation is so powerful. Does anybody here besides me meditate?
I do.
HCRB is all meditation, but do you meditate, right?
Oh God, yes. Yeah, every day, every day.
But one of the things I like about meditation is that it makes us examine our own stuff and stand back and look at us the way others may look at us so that we can break the cycle of our own crazy.
Yeah.
And I think what the thing that is so painful for me as a professional empath, somebody that gets hired to go in and figure out people like this, I think the most painful thing for me as a remote viewer is the lack of growth. That is the thing that hurts me the most because I see no growth in this individual.
Yeah. Well, it's been my experience with this type of person that I always think of the record, the needle stuck in the groove of the record, and it skips and it just keeps playing that same groove over and over. That's the way I often felt with my mother. And this is not impugning my mother. I loved my mother, but nonetheless, she had mental health issues. And it used to drive me crazy how I did not see her grow or evolve. She just kept harping on the same stuff, sometimes things that happened 30, 40, and 50 years before.
Oh, I'm like that. But that's also how women are. They say our amygdala is larger.
Yeah.
And we never forget. My ex-boyfriend from 40 years ago, you should have heard the stuff I was saying to him.
I've heard what you had to say. Yeah.
Oh, everybody heard what I had to say. 40,000 people heard. No. But then when I got it off my chest, all I wanted to do was get it off my chest. But I don't hold grudges.
No.
I just needed to have sometimes you just need the other person to hear is that how
Whimsy, I would never
figure out how to pin things. There we go.
Yeah, because I would never categorize you that way, because you are a person who grows, you evolve, you take the life lessons as you learn them. But people like Donald Trump, no, they don't.
I try. Susan Barney had a really important point. I wanted to read this. She said, my psychologist said he had classic syndrome of having a highly critical and emotionally abusive parent or grandparent. Mary Trump spoke about that. Do you think that that's partly why he's so defensive? I mean, if you're born in a situation, Mary Trump said her grandfather was a sociopath. I think there's some truth to that.
I do too.
You want to read what Tina White says for me, since I'm blind as a bat?
Tina White. Narcissists. My screen just moved here. Narcissists do deeply consider what they do, but only to figure out how to do it better, how to abuse their victims more. They love doing it. It's what makes them happy. Yes, I've certainly seen evidence of that myself. I used to have a boss like that. I won't give her name, but you knew her, Whimsy.
Oh yes.
Yeah, we won't give her name, but.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Trump's looks like a ghost, says Joel Tilson. A ghost that won't go away, perhaps. He's like a sad rash that won't go away, says Mimi Rose. Mm-hmm. Do you want to just throw cards on what will be the future outcome for Donald Trump? I'd be kind of curious to see, like, at the end of the day, what is his karma? Because if someone's truly mentally ill, should we be happy at their demise? Instead, shouldn't we just be neutral and say, okay, they're insane, they need to be removed from the general population? You certainly don't want them running for president, right?
It's madness to me that man is a presumptive Republican Party nominee for president. This criminal.
Yeah, I'm just curious about how it ends for him. How does it end for this guy?
Just pulling here. Well, truth is definitely going to come to the surface. We're seeing that already. The truth is going to come up. And I get that he's fighting for his survival. I get suffering, survival, truth. Those were the three cards that came up.
He's at great risk for coronary artery disease, I think.
Oh, he has been.
Yeah.
I mean, the McDonald's, the KFC diet. I mean, he's grossly overweight. I'm just amazed the man is still standing.
Yeah, I mean, he always gets cards that have to do with like coronary artery disease, but that's not surprising.
Yeah.
Heart disease. They say his luck is running out. Look at this.
Well,
He also suffers from profound depression.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I was just going to say part of what the amphetamines uppers do is that they increase dopamine. And so for that reason, people who suffer from depression, they're up, 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 up. Coffee is an upper for the clouds, right?
And
but he's losing his luck, and he's got this coronary arteries. I'm a doctor, and so my job is to make sure people stay healthy and happy. And even if they're not the best president in the world, the part of me that's a physician, I really want to clean this guy's diet up.
I know you. Put him on a diet, 80% plant-based, 20%.
He had to pay. We had to get him ready for the physician's assistant to a new. Yeah, so he can recite. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say the other card. I got balance, scale of justice. There is definitely going to be justice because I pulled up the card. Truth is going to surface. Balance and justice. So he's going to be brought to justice. But hence, he's going to be fighting for his survival, and of course, the suffering part. I think we know what that means, but. Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but
no, that was it. Okay, and so we're going to be closing pretty soon. I just want to do a quick update on Princess Catherine. We want to send her positive, loving energy.
Yes,
she's not feeling well. I have faith in her. She's a good person. I don't believe rumors that she's a bad person. So we want to send her loving, healing energy. Well, I said that she's a good person. Her husband's another. I don't always. I think a lot of the time you can have a good woman, but the husband is not always. You don't always like the husband as much as in this case. I like the wife a lot more than the husband.
Yeah, there was some controversy about that video. Some are feeling it was done on a soundstage.
There's a lot of problems with it, but I got to let it go because I think she's sick. But what it looked to me as a remote viewer was that they were having marital problems, that they were semi-separated, that they were probably on the verge of announcing that they were trying to have what I believe was an amicable separation. I think they had been experimenting with being separated for some time. I felt as Kate that I was being put away, that he didn't love me anymore. And I'm sure that those are feelings that any woman would have, turning 42, perimenopausal. Maybe she did have endometriosis, hormones, and she was sensitive to anyone pointing that out. She maybe had a history of these problems. Now, if you have endometriosis, you're at higher risk for ovarian cancer.
Well, that was something I wondered about.
Yeah.
Major abdominal surgery. She's about to start.
Right. So it could be that she had these kinds of hormones, endometrial, etc., perimenopause. And so any woman could be feeling like they're being put away. You're grieving the loss. You're not going to have any more children. Those are normal human emotions. And we always ask permission from spirit to access the Akashic records. So I'm only allowed to see what another person allows me to see. So while I didn't see everything, there was a genuine feeling that I had lost something as a woman, that my children were grown, that the older children were going to go away to boarding school, and I was going to be put away at Hangden or wherever she lives, and my time is over, and my time in the sun. It was a horrible feeling. And now I'm not the person spreading rumors about whether or not her husband's having an affair or not. But all I do as a remote viewer is I try to feel, how do I feel? But I also felt like I wanted a divorce. Not initially. I didn't want a divorce initially. But as time went on, maybe because I'm dealing with this, it got to a point, I think, where he realized that if I come out and separate her now, the whole world's going to hate me. I can't separate a woman who's been diagnosed. So I got to stay in a relationship and put on a facade that we're still together because she's sick.
Right.
And
Right.
so it had to, so they went through a period where they couldn't come together publicly as a couple to deal with it. And so he was publishing as William. He was putting up fake stories. They finally must have been able to communicate as a couple and come together as a couple because she was able to take down the fake post on Twitter claiming that she made the picture. Clearly she didn't.
Right.
And she was able to speak in her own voice. And so now they're united to some extent, but I still do not feel that these two are, they're united at this point because she needs to get well. She needs to take care of herself, but I simply do not feel that they are together. And I'm sorry for that. I kind of wish they were. But we'll go ahead. We'll close. We'll do some cards. I felt with an Ace of Wands the last time we were together that she was going to be okay, that she was going to be stronger, that she would recover from this. But let's go ahead. Do some cards before we close for Princess Catherine and send her some good vibes.
Yeah.
She's very disciplined. I feel she's very disciplined, and I feel that she's very strong, much stronger than her husband, but no surprise there. And she's like an anchor. She has young children. She is extremely disciplined, very health conscious. She's like an anchor. Her husband is heartbroken. He's heartbroken.
Yeah.
You don't know what you've got till it's gone. He was taking her for granted. Maybe they were semi-separated. He didn't want to, hang out and take care of the kids, leaving her to have to do it. He was, she'd love to go to the bars like she did when she was younger. I felt but that's just normal stuff too. Whipped to shape. She is disciplined. And then the sun over her. So she's going to be fine because she's disciplined and she's like an anchor. But he must appreciate her because you don't know what you've got till it's gone. And I think that they were really negotiating a separation and possible divorce. I would also say, how she wears the cross, but he doesn't?
Yeah.
She has a much more spiritual side than she lets on to.
Mm-hmm.
And her faith in God is something that's become increasingly important to her, but she doesn't publicize it. She wears the cross for a reason. Her Christian faith is really important to her, but it's not something that she talks about. Yeah. He's the man that has a wandering eye.
Yeah.
The CAD, the wandering eye card. It's a problem. They have a mountain to cover to make it through in this marriage. Yeah. She is very good for him, but he's got some growing up to do. That's my prediction.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say before we close?
I think you pretty much said it. I just pulled a couple of cards here. I got survival and family.
Yes.
Take that to mean royal family, not just her family, but the royal family in general. This could mean several things. It could be survival of the royal family itself. It could be her personal survival. I agree with you. I think she's going to be okay, but she certainly is in a fight for right now. I can't remember if she said she's begun her chemotherapy.
She has
not to begin her chemotherapy.
And she could be wearing a wig. People were calling her hair is so long. Well, she could have had a wig put in. Possibly. And that could also be why they're putting a gel on the camera, is because she's on chemo. She may have already lost her hair. So
possible. Yeah. It's been pointed out this could very well have been a soundstage, careful lighting. I'm sure she had makeup, hairdressing. You made the point, could be a wig she was wearing, and that's her right.
Well, I believe her. I believe she does have cancer. That's not what we were focusing on. My job as a remote viewer is always just to focus on the emotions and try to connect with the other person. And then by their permission, by grace, they tell us what they feel. But now with this information coming out, it helps me understand why I felt put away as a woman. Because if I was going through something like that, hysterectomy, oophorectomy, even if it wasn't cancer, I'd be feeling those emotions. I'm not going to have any more children. You got to grieve that. Even if you know you don't want children, I'm sure any woman would be going through those
I've
emotions.
had some friends who've had to undergo hysterectomies, and they've said the very same thing. There's almost always grief. And truthfully, I also had a friend, he was only 52. He had prostate cancer. He had to have his prostate removed.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, it's like a woman losing her uterus, a man losing his prostate, losing her ability to reproduce. There are just many, many vibrations.
Right. So she, she
Yeah.
must have felt all of that, and then going to San Ingram or whatever to recover and losing that. Oh my God, no wonder she was in so much
Because
grief.
I can tell you, my friend who had to have his prostate removed, he thought, okay, I'll just get this fixed. I'll go on with life. No, he was devastated. He had to actually go on disability for 6 months from work. He was so emotionally devastated. And he said he was not expecting that to happen. So
Well, I think if we all send love and healing to her, it's going to go a long way. So we don't want to be part of the crazy that's attacking her.
I send her love.
Now, her husband, on the other hand, honey, I don't think he's good enough for you. That's what I would say to Catherine. But if that's who she wants, I don't think she wants him. Well, we'll just see how we will send positive vibes. We want to think positive things. All right. So thank you, everybody who's been hanging with us so far. We have an amazing book club that we're going to start right now. Are you excited about the book?
Oh, I love doing this every month. Yeah. This is such a privilege. You always choose an excellent book every month, and I get involved in the book, and then I can't wait to meet the author. So this is a treat. This is
all right.
We're all going to have a lot in common with her.
Right. So for those of you who don't know, we have a monthly book club. We get together at the end of the month to discuss books that have been written by fans of the Oracle of Whimsy channel. So if you yourself have written a book and you would like to be a part of our monthly book club, be sure and send it to Dr. Whimsy Anderson, 1819 Southwest 5th Avenue, Portland, Oregon, 97201, and then you too can be part of our book club. But we're doing Victims and Survivors with Leslie Cain. So everyone, please give a warm welcome to Leslie Cain. Hi, Leslie.
Hi. Hi, Chuck. Hi, Whimsy. Hello to your audience. Delighted to be here.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. And also thank you so much for writing such an amazing book.
It is amazing.
Thank you so much.
My heart went out to you. I had so much empathy. I didn't go through physical abuse as a child, but I certainly went through a lot of emotional, psychological abuse. And that was something I could very much relate to as I read your book.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the emotional is harder than the physical because you don't see the scars.
Exactly. And in my case, some of that abuse came from a school teacher. It took me years to get over it. And Whimsy, I'm sure you have some wonderful things to bring up.
Yeah, all kinds of things. Leslie, can you tell me a little bit about what inspired you to actually make to first off, to have the courage to write a book like this? But I don't even think I could, if I had lived through what you lived through, I don't think I would have had the emotional wherewithal to write about it. I couldn't even write about it, let alone talk about it.
Yeah.
It did take several decades for me to. This was a book that had 30 years of wanting to write and actually having a dream come true and writing it. And what gave me the catalyst to do this is because I just believe in when something bad happens, you got to try to make something good from it.
Exactly. I agree with that. Take what you've gone through and use it to educate others and hopefully make things better. It's all about education. You brought a lot of important things to the light so it could be addressed.
If you can prevent it from happening to someone, you got to try.
Did you find it healing as you wrote about this? Addressed it for you personally?
No. A lot of people think it's cathartic, and for a lot of people, maybe it is.
Yeah.
But after so many years, I had put it past. But I had written during all the years, so I had documented things, and there's certain things that you don't forget. And I just wanted to find out my own answers. Just in my second book, Poetic Justice, it's a murder mystery. this was a mystery, victims and survivors, as to how did this happen to me? How did this happen to my family? How far does it go back in my family? And I found out abuse of one kind or another went back 4 generations.
Oh,
And
it's
that's
often
the
the
norm.
case. Well, I found out things about my mother's family. They had all died before I was ever born, and I heard horror stories. Like my grandmother on my mother's side was actually in and out of mental institutions. She had actually tried to kill my mother
Oh my.
once. Tried to do it when she was pregnant with my older sister. Stole a
Oh, you
butcher knife.
tell us about that.
Oh, should I tell that here? I'll tell it real quickly. I'm so sorry if this is inappropriate, but this was, my grandmother was in a psychiatric ward, and this was in the days before they had proper security and cameras and so forth. She went down into the kitchen and got a butcher knife and had it under her mattress. My mother was 8 months pregnant with my sister, and my grandmother tried to stab her in the stomach in the psychiatric ward. Yeah. So I just wanted to make the point that, yes, I know what you mean about abuse going back generations.
So clearly not happy about being committed by her daughter.
Clearly.
No.
So the thing that I found was the most painful about reading Leslie, for me personally, Leslie, was the schizophrenia of an abuser. The fact that you speak about him as such a nice guy in a lot of ways. That's the horror of abusers, is just how they're often charming and wonderful. And it's like, well, we love Michael Jackson, right? It's like, it's just Michael. It's just that this kind of dual aspect. Like, I found that disturbing. I think that it's not like these people walk around in a black cape.
No, and what makes it easier to understand is the fact that not necessarily, but most people aren't all bad. So just because they do bad things, and when I looked into my father's history, he was probably abused by one of his sisters at a very young age. So when you look back, sometimes there's nothing makes you understand what they do. Nothing excuses what they do, but you can kind of have, if you have empathy, you can kind of empathy for the child that was abused before they became an abuser.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Yeah.
You talked also about like the pattern of abuse. It was like predatory people know the kind of a person that they can screw with. And so what happens with survivors is that it becomes a revolving door. Users, can you talk a little bit about that? Because I found that also disturbing.
Yes, because unfortunately it has the highest repetitive rate, sexual abuse does. And if they're not stopped, and then I can only speak from what I saw from my father's vantage point, after he abused my sister before me. And when the oldest one leaves, then they go to the next one, and I was the only next one there was.
Yeah.
They go to, that is a standard thing. They also try to manipulate the children to either scare them to think that something's going to happen to them, something's going to happen to their loved ones, or that they did something wrong, and they're going to tell that something wrong to the world if they don't do what they want them to do. And the child doesn't have anywhere to turn. And especially because you said that abusers have the nice side. Sometimes they do. That's what makes it hard. If you think about a con person, have you ever met a mean con person?
Mm-mm.
They are charismatic. They are manipulative. They are someone that you might like, but they have to be, because they want to take your money. Donald comes to mind. They want to take your money, so they have to be that way.
Oh yeah,
That's
the hallmark of any con.
What was the hardest lesson for you to learn in order to survive?
Wow. I had 3 tools.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you a similar question. Like, what tools helped you to get to where you are, to where you're thriving right now? And Whimsy.
I think it's 3 tools everybody can have. And that is a sense of faith, whether you believe in God or something that's stronger
Mhm.
or different. Because to me, there wasn't anything stronger. Or you have a sense of faith. You have a sense of humor, because some things are just so terrible that
Mhm.
sometimes you have to laugh because it's laugh or cry. And I
Yes,
choose to laugh when I can because I always see the glass half full if possible.
that was me as a kid. That's how I survived.
And then the lastly answers that other question you had, Whimsy, about the catalyst for the books.
Mhm.
And that is a sense of purpose. Because if you
Yeah.
don't have a sense of purpose in your life, what are you living for?
Right.
And my
Yes.
sense of purpose was to try to get the information out to try to prevent this from happening to other people. And if it had already happened to other people, maybe they could read the signs and realize that. And I
Well,
actually have
that was actually a question I
something
was going
here
to ask you.
that might help that I'll read later if you want me to.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you that question. What are signs of a controlling relationship in
Oh,
your
perfect. That is perfect. All right. This is something in my book. It's in, I believe it's the last chapter. And it's signs when your boundaries are being crossed. And I thought this was important to read for your audience as well, because a
Yeah.
lot of times if you're in an abusive situation, you don't necessarily recognize that it's abuse. If that's the only situation you've been in, you don't know any better. And
Well, yeah.
sometimes when
That's
people read these, they go, wait a minute, that's
Can-
what I've been through.
If we want to follow along, where are you reading? Can you tell us?
I'm reading on page 137 on the last part of it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And it's
Yeah,
signs when your boundaries are being crossed. And number one is not feeling safe.
Uh-huh.
Fear of consequences if you try to address the issues. In other words, you're afraid to tell that person that you don't feel safe. Bad or little to no communication. Having to be defensive about things used against you. And I would add to that, a lot of times if you confide, they will use the things that you confided against you.
Yes.
Lack of consideration and appreciation. These are standard things that would let you know that your boundaries are being crossed.
I feel like I've done this also to people. Like, what's the difference between us and the abuser? Like, all people can do this. We can all make others feel safe when we're in a bad mood. We can all, like, what's the difference between, say, all of us just having a hard day and being cranky versus a predator? Is it that it's just a constant? Is that the problem?
Chronic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Chronic, and everybody has a bad day. Everybody says things that they don't mean sometimes.
Yeah.
That's just human nature. But when it is a constant ridicule, when it's constant degrading, when it makes you feel less than what you should feel.
That was my whole childhood.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Well, I mean, I'm here now. I'm fine now. I'm like you. I'm thriving. But this was what I went through as a child, and that's why I identified with these things you brought up. But you said in the beginning of your book about it's how many of us get used to abuse as a quote unquote normal, and I
Yes.
think that was the case in my household where it was all I'd ever known since I was a baby. This was the only mother I ever had. So to me, this was in a weird way, it was normal.
Yes.
And I don't think I really realized until after I left home and went to college, no, this was not normal, not by a long shot.
Because when you're living in it, you don't necessarily see it.
No, you just finally become, I guess in my case, I became numb to it. It was a day-to-day thing, and it's almost like you're just beaten into submission.
You expect it.
Yeah.
You expect it.
Yeah, you're right. You accept it, and you expect it. That was my case. And something, my mother used to take a lot of her own guilt and instill it into me. And when you're 3, 4, 5 years old, you don't have the tools
No.
to understand this. So you grow up feeling all this guilt and shame, thinking it's yours when it's just been programmed into you. I mean,
Exactly.
did you find that true for yourself?
Yes, and what you're telling me from your mom, it sounds like she got it because she was abused. It went through her generation. If you look back, you might find out it might have been your grandmother and your great or your grandfather. It could have been any side of the family, but it probably went back further than what you think.
Oh, I'm certain of that. You know, my mother's side of the family is quite enigmatic. My mother had me late in life in her 40s. Both my grandparents and most of my family had died before I was even born, and my mother would rarely discuss them with me. I had
That's
to find
a sign
out.
that something happened there that she didn't
Yes,
want to discuss.
exactly.
We
It
have-
was all after she died. My father revealed things to me.
Yeah, we have some really interesting comments for the author. Kitty Connell said that she had a father that used to threaten her kittens. Now, that level of evil is beyond my comprehension, but I gotta ask, Leslie, is that type of malevolence where they threaten the things you love?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because they want to manipulate you. And if you're hard to manipulate, they got to go to drastic measures.
Yeah.
So and then this also what EMA survivor is saying, when you don't trust the person. This is something that's come up a little bit with the issue with Kate and William, where they say he's ferociously protective of his family. And other people say, is he ferociously protective or terrified that the truth is going to come out? And so how do you know the difference between, say, a husband that's just being very protective of his wife and, say, somebody who's just being very protective because they don't want the truth to come out in their family? Like, those two things can look the same. How do we know?
They can, but there are standard things that abusers do that a protective husband doesn't necessarily do. And that is, abusers try to separate the people that they're abusing from their friends, from their family. Now, a jealous person could do that, but then when it gets to unrealistic, that's when you realize, okay, there's something else going on. And I agree. One of the main things that abusers use is, you don't tell people what goes on in our house. What goes on in our house stays in our house. Mm-hmm. Well, that could be for some things, but when it's abuse, it best not stay in the house. Somebody better tell somebody.
Yeah, because when I was doing the remote views on Kate and I felt all this negative energy about my relationship, and then that he was ferociously protective, I was like, okay, that sounds good. It sounds good that you're ferociously protective of your family. Or are you just trying, you don't want people to find out how bad you treat your wife? That fine line, like.
I think he is protecting. He is ferociously protective. But of what? Of his wife or of those secrets?
Yeah.
See, that's what I had a problem with. Kay Travel also says something else that I'd like you to address. And then if you could read a little bit, that would be cool too.
Sure.
From the book. But she says that her childhood was like that too, and that she thought that everyone went through it because they weren't, she wasn't allowed to go to her girlfriend's homes, etc. So again, isolating the victim, not allowing them to go to other people's homes, maybe not wanting them to talk. These are patterns, right?
Exactly, patterns. A lot of times they'll move. A lot of times when I have a friend, and I'm not going to give her name, but I'm wearing her ring. She's my BFF. A lot of times they will actually move their house. This person had a brother that was abusive. And we think the mother might have known, because each time it came out to the neighborhood, the mother would move.
Yeah, exactly. So I just really wanted to ask you that, because he seems almost hysterical that anyone should find out anything about what's going on when the door is closed. And Prince Charles isn't like that. He's like, yeah, I'm sick. I got cancer. Came out and talked to people. This kind of fear and the locked door, I just found it to be so extreme.
There's more there.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but there's more there.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to read some of the poems for us and some of the work today, Leslie? And you can choose whatever you like. Maybe spend a few minutes sharing your work with the audience.
All righty. I think I could probably show them in a way that maybe they've never seen before what abuse does to a creative mind.
Mhm.
I wrote several poems, started writing as a child, tried to change what I was living in and make a happy story.
Mhm.
And it was really my only avenue of escape. I wrote this poem called The Touch of Disaster. I was only 10. So
Mhm.
pardon me. I was only 10, but there's a reason I want to read this to you, because the next poem after that was after the abuse at 12. And you're going to see the difference in the creative mind, what it does. And I'm a child. I had a mental block on this until 12. So I didn't know this when I was writing the 10-year-old. And at the 12-year-old mark, I didn't realize that's what my poem was reflecting. I do now. It's called The Touch of I want to get the first one, which is my older sister. I have an older sister. Her name is Judy Cain. I wish she wasn't always such a great big pain. Whenever I turn around, she's on my back again. School morning, she says to me, time to wake up, make your bed. Now don't you be a sleepyhead. On weekends, I watch cartoons. Judy sleeps late. At night, I like to watch her when she's flirting with her dates. It makes it even better because that's something that she hates. She sleeps in, but I'm not allowed to call her a sleepyhead. Sometimes she sleeps so sound, though, I start to think she's dead. She puts all kinds of makeup on just so that she can go. She thinks she looks like a model, but she looks more like Geronimo. If someday she finds her king, she may become a queen. But when he sees her wearing curlers, he'll think it's Halloween. If he ever sees her with all that goo she piles on her face, I can't help but think she'd run away as fast as she could race. He'll say, whatever happened to that pretty princess of mine? Now she looks like Dracula or even Frankenstein. Uh-oh, she's getting up now, so I guess I better end, 'cause if she ever reads this, well, you won't see me again.
That's pretty good for a 10-year-old. Yeah.
Just say, real talent there.
What the startling difference is you see the personality and the
Yes.
exuberance of that poem.
Yes.
The next poem, and I didn't write anything in between. So I stopped writing when that happened as well.
And this was written at the age of 12. Correct?
This is right after. This is The Touch of Disaster. Does that give you an idea of the Man is like a weed that bends and turns its head. He watches trees that fall, then laughs when they are dead. Man is like a fungus growing everywhere, constantly getting bigger, leaving sadness and despair. Man is like a melody that goes from beat to beat. For all at once he's wicked, then suddenly he's sweet. Man is like a chameleon, for he changes the color of his mood to fit a sick and selfish hunger, deceit and fear his favorite food. Man is like a vulture who preys upon his kind, for man will only be attached if sure he can break the bind. Man is like the ocean, sometimes calm and cool, but he can rise and strike if found he's called a fool. Man is like a monster screeching the battle cry. Man has made the modern world, but soon his world will die. That sound like the same child?
No.
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 That's what
It's the making of a remote viewer.
Whoa.
She's getting that early sensitivity training to the predator,
Yeah.
to the good and the bad, being able to see the predator, and she's already predicting his demise. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's one other one, the one that you liked, Whimsy. I'd like to read that for you.
I think we're running out of time. That was the one that I was hoping we would close with. So
I'm
yes.
a survivor.
Yes, I love it. Please.
I'm a survivor. I win when I can. I'm a survivor. That is what I am. Once I was a victim, but I overcame all of the heartaches and all of the pain. The times I felt helpless, I never gave in. I held on so long that sometimes I'd win. I thought I was weak, but you know, I was wrong. I'm here. I've survived, so I must be strong. My scars are medals of honor I wear. They're proof I've endured more than my share. Fate has thrown a lot of curves at me, but I'm a survivor. I fought hard to be.
Oh,
It's very powerful.
Thank you.
That's beautiful.
I thank you so much, Leslie Cain, for writing your books, for not only having the courage to heal and to thrive, but also to help others in that journey. And please let us know what other books you have out there. What are
Please.
those?
This is Poetic Justice right here. And this is Murder Mystery. True, all part of my memoirs. Murder Mystery, first degree murder trial, gang attacks, male strippers, and behind the scenes on movie sets. So, and all of my books on the memoir series have the playlists, have the resource information, and they all have poetry.
Oh.
And then this is Sound of Surviving. This was the most recent. This has a love story of my husband.
Yes.
Oh.
This is the one that has the behind the scenes of the movie sets. This one has Miracle. It has Miracle in the Freezer. I'm going to let you figure that one out. And it's,
is it like ice cream that's like manna? Every time you open the freezer, you get another Ben and Jerry's Cherry Garcia. Like that would be a miracle in a freezer. Ben and Jerry's.
Well, I don't want to spoil the surprise, but I'm going to tell you it was a lot better than Ben and Jerry's.
Okay. Well, thank you.
That's in suspense.
Thank you, everyone who was able to join us today for Taco Tuesdays and also for our Book of the Month Club with the amazing Leslie Cain. Of course, if you want to check out her book, it's available on Amazon.com. And if you too have a book that you have written and you want to share it with the world, be sure and send it to us at 1819 Southwest 5th Avenue, Portland, Oregon, 97201. That's Suite 116. So thank you, everyone, again. Be kind to all so that all can be kind to you. I'm sorry, Chuck, before we go, is there anything you want to say? We didn't get to your
my own channel, Chuck's Captivating Chronicles. Please like and subscribe. And even my cat has a channel, Sasha's Siamese Secrets. Please like and subscribe.
All right. I'm sorry. We will next week. All right. Thank you, everyone. We're out of here. God bless.
Thank you.
Next time.
LeslieCain.net.